If you've been asked to shoot a bow on film, you don't need to make your arrow hit the target. The editor will take care of that. But you do need to look convincingly responsible for that shot. There are a lot of people who hold a bow in a way that it's just apparent that the arrow is never going to be going where they want it to go. This is how you make it look as if you know how to handle this superb instrument of war.
These are the two most commonly used forms of bow. The one on the top is a long bow, the one on the bottom is what's called a recurve. Horse bows are slightly shorter recurves, really. This is a compound bow. You're unlikely to need to shoot one of these on stage or on screen unless you're doing a zombie apocalypse film. Parts of the arrow. This, unsurprisingly, is your point. This is your shaft. The feathers here are called fletchers, and when you're shooting longbow, they need to be feather fletched like this. This is the knock at the end. The white feather is your cock feather. You will always find that one of the three feathers is a different color. That's your cock feather, and it goes off to your left if you're holding your bow in your left hand.
That way your fletching, that's the feathers, doesn't interfere with the flight of the arrow. I'm holding a longbow here, so if you're being asked to follow along after Robin Hood and his merry men or Henry V, this is the kind of bow you'll be using. You see, the string does not run against the bow as it comes down. It forms a little triangle right at the tip here. I've got a 40-pound longbow here. Your average Englishman at the time of Henry V drew a 90-pound bow. That could really do some damage.
There are two basic kinds of quivers, side quivers and back quivers. Side quivers are better for when you're standing still and shooting at a fixed target. Back quivers are better if you're on the move because they don't bump around on your side. You can still whip an arrow out pretty fast, but they'll stay more stable on your back if you're moving.
The first thing that most people who don't know how to handle a bow do wrong is they allow their drawing elbow to tilt up like this. That's the most common way. It's very important, if you're going to look as if you know what you're doing, that you keep a straight line all the way from the hand holding the bow to the drawing point. So what you're doing is you're creating a direct line with lowered shoulders all the way across like that. Keep it really straight. That's the first most important thing to do.
Too many people instinctively put their elbow up like that. That immediately sends a visual signal that you have no control over where your arrow is going. So you want to pull back. I'm going to put an arrow in. You pull back, you make sure that you're creating a straight line directly across.
Step 2 is probably the hardest because it's to do with how you hold the arm that's holding the bow and how you tilt your elbow. It's really natural for your elbow to tilt that way. And if you release a string while you're holding a bow like that, it will smack your arm to bits. You have to learn to tilt your elbow away from the string as you draw. Number 3, the draw. It's crucial that you fully extend your draw. None of this halfway business. It just won't look as if you're putting power behind your arrow if your hand remains in front of your face. So 3, fully extend the draw. Never ever release a string without an arrow in it. That's called dry firing, and all that pressure that you're creating in the string, instead of being pushed into the arrow, will be pushed into the limbs of the bow, and you can shatter your bow and cause some pretty nasty injuries. Then when you release, which I'm not going to do here, what you want to do is straighten your fingers and pull your arm back. It's very instinctive to take your hand forward with the bow, but that's going to mess up your shot and it will not look like an experienced archer. When you release your arrow, it feels very instinctive for your hand to follow it forward. Don't do that. You want to work against that if you want a good clean release and to look as if you know what you're doing. When you release your arrow, you straighten your fingers and you pull your hand back. all the way back to your ear like that. And that will give you a clean release and look convincingly as if you are sending that arrow where you want it to be. To recap, the 4 elements you need to look convincingly like you know how to shoot an arrow are these. Number 1, do not let the elbow of your drawing arm tilt up. Make sure you keep a straight line all the way across both arms. Number 2, make sure your elbow on your bow arm doesn't tip inward towards the string. Keep it turned out. Number 3, extend your draw all the way, no half draws, to make it look like you've got power in that arrow. And number 4, on your release, straighten your fingers and pull your hand backward to your ear. Don't let it go forward, so the release looks clean. Do those 4 things and it will look on film as if your arrow has definitely plunged deep into the heart of your hapless victim.